Baruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, 6 lines from the top. Until now we were discussing that in order for a person to be moitzi others in the bracha of ha-moitzi, then there has to be a kaviyus, because bread is a davar chashuv, and therefore the chashivus of the bread require that there be a kaviyus in the seuda to be moitzi others in the bracha of ha-moitzi. What thereby constitutes a kaviyus? So our Mishnah says if they're just sitting around and they happen to be in the same place, that's not good enough. They have to be hesebu, they have to have them sitting beheseba, where they would recline on a pillow, and that would be a kaviyus. That means that they were eating together. Alternatively, even if they were going to sit together, they said in that place, duch plan, in that place, we're going to sit together, that also will then constitute a kaviyus. Now our Gemara discusses, what about yayin, what about wine? Does that also require the same type of kaviyus? Says the Gemara, Omrav, loishanu elapas, the boy haseba. This was only taught in regards to bread that requires haseba to then mevarech hamoitzi and motzi others as well. Aval yayin loy boy haseba, but wine, you don't need haseba. One can say boy priagafen and motzi others even if they're just sitting together without a kaviyus. Rabbi Yochanan Omar afilu yayin nami boy haseba. Rabbi Yochanan argues, says no, yayin is just like bread. Yayin also has chashivus, and thereby also requires a kaviyus for them to have haseba in order for one to be moitzi others the bracha of borei priagafen. Ike de Amir, there are those that say Omar Rav lo shanu ela pasta mahanya le haseba. Aval yayin lo mahanya le haseba. There's another statement, alternative, that says that Rav said that which it says one can be motzi others in the bracha of ha-moitzi, that will only work by pas when there is haseba. But yayin, it won't even work to have haseba, and thereby one cannot be motzi others the bracha of borei priagafen. Rabbi Yochanan Omar afilu yayin nami mahanya le haseba. Rabbi Yochanan argues, says no, wine also will then benefit, will also then work if you then have haseba to then motzi others the borei priagafen. Meisvei, the Gemara asks the following from the following brisa: Keitzad seder haseba. The brisa says, how did they make a meal of kaviyus with haseba? So this was the following way they did it: Orchin nichnasin v'yoshvin al gabe safsalim al gabe katedros. There were guests that would go to the anteroom. And before they went to the actual dining room, they would go to an anteroom. They would sit down on safsalim, on benches, and also on chairs. Ashi kansu kulam, until they all gathered together. Heviu lahem mayim, kol echad ve'echad noitel yodoi achas. Then they would bring water for each person to wash one of his hands so that he can hold the cup of wine. They would drink wine before they would go into the dining room and have their seuda. Bolehem yayin, when the wine was served in that anteroom, kol echad ve'echad mevarech la'atzmoi. Each one would then make his own bracha of borei priagafen. Olu ve'hasebu ubolehem mayim. Af al pi shekol echad ve'echad noto yodoi achas choyze v'noite shtei yodov. Then they would go into the dining room, and then they would recline. Hesebu, they would recline. And then they would be brought water to then wash both hands, now for the suda, for the bread meal. And then each one would make bolahem yayin, then they would be given wine. And afal pi shekol echad ve'echad beirach la'atzmo echad mevarch lekulam. Now, when they would make the bracha on the wine, one make a bracha for the rest of the others that were present. Lahech lishna, asked the Gemara, the Omarav loishanu elapas, the boy hasebo. That lashon that says that only only bread requires haseba to be moitzi others with the bracha of ha-moitzi. Aval yayin loy boy haseba, but wine does not require, haseba. Kasha Reisha. The Reisha is difficult because the Reisha says that each and every one is making a bracha on his own wine. Borei priagafen. Says the Gemara, Shiny Orchin. Guests are different to daitayu limi alkar, because they're only in the anteroom. They have in mind to then leave that room to go to the dining room, and therefore there's no kavias over there, and therefore there's no need to then have one person make a bracha for everybody else. Rather, each one is making his own bracha, and therefore daita is ma'akir, is to then leave that place because they know that they're not going to then remain there. That language, meaning that lashon of Rav, that said that it only teaches over here that you have to have haseba to be motzi others, but by yayin lo mahanya le haseba, it will only work for bread but not for wine. Wine, even if you have haseba, one cannot be motzi others their bracha of bari pri hagofen. Kasha seifa. The seifa is difficult because the seifa said that one is mevarech bari pri hagofen in the middle of the meal for everybody else. Answers the Gemara, shiny hasom. That's different over there. The migu, the ka mahanya le haseba lepas, mahanya le haseba leyayin. Since they already have haseba that will work for the pas, thereby once there's already a kvius that is for the pas, then it also works for the yayin. In other words, michlal mosayim mana. It has such a svar that once you already have a kvius, then you can also then have it mahanya for the haseba of the yayin. Says the Gemara, quoting the Mishnah, Bolahem yayin betoicha mazon. When wine is brought in the middle of the mazon, shalu es ben zoyma. Mipnei ma amru, Bolahem yayin betoicha mazon. Kol echad ve'echad mevarch la'atzmoi. La'achar mazon echad mevarch le'kulam. Why this distinction between when it comes to the sitting together beforehand, it says that each and every one makes their own bracha, meaning in the middle of the meal. But when they then have wine after the meal is finished, they have the wine afterwards, then one makes a bracha for everybody else. Why? Omar lehem, Ben Zoma answered, Hoyil ve'ein beis habiliya panui. Because since a person's throat is not available in the middle of the meal, that means to say that he won't be able to then concentrate on the bracha. In order to be yotzei the bracha of somebody else, you have to then hear all the words and pay attention to the bracha. Or alternatively, you also may have somebody who answers amen, although it's not ma'akev the bracha, right? But since it's correct to answer amen, so he might not be able to answer amen, and therefore, because his throat is busy eating, if he does answer amen, he'll be in danger. So therefore, in the middle of the meal, each one makes his own bracha. Whereas after the meal, then one makes a bracha for everybody else when his beis habiliya is going to be panui. The Mishnah says, V'hu oimer al hamugmar. After they were done with the meal, the procedure was that they generally would then serve after the meal and after eating all the desserts, then they would then light mugmar. Mugmar was an incense, and they would make a bracha on it. Who would make the bracha? The Mishnah says the same person that made the bracha on the yayin in the middle of the meal, he will make a bracha on the mugmar. Says the Gemara, Mediktani v'hu oimer ala mugmar. From the fact that it teaches in the Mishnah that the one who made the bracha on the wine after the Seudah, he is the same one who makes the bracha on the mugmar, on this incense. Michlal di'ika adif minei. It's mashma, therefore, that there's somebody who's greater than him. Because why does it say that he, with the emphasis, makes the bracha on the mugmar, as opposed to who? Says the Gemara. Now this next statement is not clear. It says va'amai, and why? Hoyel v'hu noto yodev tchila b'achron. Since that he washed first my machronim, and this statement is taken out by the Gra and others. So we'll skip the statement also and explain the following. Messiah Leila Rav. This that we just deduced from the Mishnah that he makes the bracha on the mugmar is mashma that there's somebody greater than him, there's a bigger Talmid Chacham than him at the table, at the Seudah, is a siyua to that which Rav said. The Omar Rav Chia bar Ashi Omar Rav. Hanoitel Yadav Techila be'achroina. Hu mezuman lebracha. The one who washes first mayim achronim, he is given to bench to be the leader of the zimun. Why? Because of his chashivus. In other words, he's given to bench, and therefore he's first given the water to wash mayim achronim. Rav v'Rab Chia havu yasbe kamei de Rebbe b'suudasa. The Gemara tells that Rav and Rabbi Chia were present eating together with Rebbe. Omar le Rebbe le Rav. Rebbe turned to Rav. Kum mashi yadach. After the Suda finished, he said to Rav, "Get up and wash your hands." Chazia dahave meratech. So Rabbi Chia saw that Rav was agitated. He felt uncomfortable. Why? Because maybe he thought that Rebbe was suspecting him of not eating properly or eating too long. Omar le Rebbe Chia bar pachti. Referring to Rav, he's speaking to Rav, Bar Pachti, the son of Gdolim, of great ones. Rebbe's intention was just to tell you, Bima'ayin, look at the words of Birkas HaMazon. In other words, the one who's given to bench is also given the Mayim Achronim first, so that he'll have time before the benching, while others wash their Mayim Achronim, to be Ma'ayin, to look at the words and prepare himself for the Zimun. So therefore we see over here a siyua to what we just said before, that indeed there was somebody greater than the one who made a bracha on the wine after the meal. That was the person who benched. And therefore, there's an emphasis that the one who made a bracha on the wine after the meal, he's the one who makes the bracha on the mugmar, on the incense. Om Rabbi Zeiro, Omar Rove, Bar Yirmiyahu. Now the Gemara asks, from when does a person make a bracha on the reyach? There's a bracha of birkas hanehenin on the reyach. The Gemara on Amud Beis will explain the source of that. But nonetheless, when a person is nehene by smelling a good scent, so he needs to make a bracha as well. Just like he makes a bracha when he's nehene from food and from drink. The question is, when does a person make that bracha? Says the Gemara, Mishete Allah Timarasoi. When the smoke goes up in a pillar. He didn't yet smell. So therefore, how can he then make a bracha when just the pillar of smoke is now going up? So he says back to him, according to your logic, how can you make a bracha on bread? He didn't yet eat. Why does he make a bracha on the bread? Because he has in mind to partake in the bread and eat right beforehand. So too, when it comes to then a person who is about to partake in smelling the scent, he is prepared to do that, and therefore when the pillar of smoke goes up, that's the time to then make the bracha, what's called oiver la'asiyasan, right before he's about to smell the aroma. Says the Gemara, discussing the various brachos that a person makes on the reyach. Omar Rabbi Chia Barei de Abe Bar Nechmeni Omar Rav Chizda Omar Rav V'Amar Lei Omar Rav Chizda Omar Zeiri. Kol hamugmarois mevarchin aleihen borei atzei besomim. All of those incense that a person will then make a bracha on, the bracha will be borei atzei besomim. So although now the wood itself is being burnt, and therefore it's all going up in smoke, nonetheless, since the source of that is the eitz, therefore you make the bracha borei atzei besomim. Chutz mi musk. Aside from musk, shemen chaya hu, because that's a shemen that is sourced in a chaya. Either it's the sweat of the chaya or it's blood that is congealed underneath the neck of the chaya of a deer. So therefore, that will be a different bracha. Shemevarchin ala borei minei besomim. Ask the Gemara from a brayso on this statement. Meisvei ei mevarchin borei atzei besomim ela ala farsimon. Shall base Rabbi Farsimon shall base Kesar. We have a brayso that says explicitly that you only make the bracha vorei atzei besomim on balsam wood of our farsimon that was served in the house of Rebbe or served in the house of the Beis Kisar, Lav Dafka, would mean that these are wealthy people who had the means to serve such balsam wood. And also on a myrtle, then you would say the bracha borei atzei besomim. So the Gemara says, clearly, the Brisa is not in line with what we just said. And therefore, tiyufta, it's a refutation to what we just learned over here, that he was saying that all the migmaros are mevarchin aleim borei atzei besomim chutz min musk, except for the exception of musk. Omar le Rav Chizda le Rav Yitzchak, hai mishcha de afar samoin. The oil of this balsam wood, my mevarchin alave, what bracha would you make on that? Omar le hachi Omar Rav Yehuda borei shemen artzeinu. You would say borei shemen artzeinu, since it's found in Eretz Yisrael, therefore you make a special bracha of borei shemen artzeinu. This is such good smelling oil that comes from this balsam wood which is found in Eretz Yisrael, therefore that's the special bracha you would give it. Omalei bar minei Rav Yehuda the chaviva le Eretz Yisrael. Aside from Rav Yehuda, who cherished Eretz Yisrael so much, what would be the bracha? The kuli alma mai. What would everybody else say on this when they make a bracha on this oil of the balsam wood? Omalei hachi amar Rabbi Yochanan. This Rabbi Yochanan said, borei shemen oref. Blessed is the one who provides shemen that is sweet, that is pleasant. Rav Hada bar Ava, hai kisharto mevarchin ilavei borei atzei besomim. The spice that's called koisht, you make the bracha borei atzei besomim. Ava mishcha kevisho lo. But when you take this koisht, the spice, and you put it by taking the oil and then submerging the spice inside of it, then it won't get the same bracha of borei atzei besomim. Rather, it'll get a different bracha. Rav Kahana Amar afilu mishcha kevisha. Even mishcha kevisha, even if it's immersed, the oil is immersed in the koisht, it will also get the same bracha borei atzei besomim. Ava mishcha techina loy. But if it is a oil that is taking the kosh and is grounded into the oil, that won't get the same bracha borei atzei besomim. Even if it was mishcha, oil that had the kosh grounded in it, that also would get the designation of borei atzei besomim.